let's get started. And in my class, when I do this, I do a symbol, right? And that lets me know where to cut the video from. So I do this, right? And that lets me know that we're getting started with officially the first ASCILITE live webinar for 2023. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the inaugural ASCILITE live webinar for 2023. And I'm new to the portfolio. Previously, it was run by David Porter and Lisa Jacker, who both left us at the end of last year. And so I left us as in went and did doing other things, just to be clear. And so I've taken over the portfolio. So I'm sort of stumbling my way through for this first one. But it's very exciting because usually the first first live webinar of the year is a CMP information session. And that suits me really well because I used to be the CMP coordinator. So I'm very comfortable with the CMP. What is the CMP? It's a community mentoring program that we've been running at ASCILITE for 20 years. I think it's 20 years. Hazel will correct me if I'm wrong there, but yes, quite a long time, and an opportunity for our members to connect together and network. But I'm not going to steal too much of our presenters' thunder because they're going to tell you a little bit more about the CMP and how the CMP works and why you might want to be a mentor or a mentee in the CMP. And so instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call your attention to the slide that I have up at the moment, which gives you a list of all of the different things that we do in ASCILITE, including our fortnightly bulletin, our live webinar series, which you're part of right now, but as well as that, things like our podcast, our journal, of course, which you might know, AJET, and I could keep on going. I won't read them all. It also gives you an idea of our special interest groups there on the left-hand side. And if you have an interest in one of those areas, then you can join one or many of those special interest groups. And Hazel, who you'll hear from in a second, is actually the special interest groups sort of meta coordinator. So if you want to know more about those special interest groups, then she's the person to talk to. But I'm going to now sort of stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to put myself on mute. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to our CMP team, which is Kwong Nui Sim, who's not here, but also Hazel Jones and Robert Vanderburg, who's pretending to be Michelle Vanderburg still in the video. And they're going to give you a little bit more about the CMP. So I'll put myself on mute and hand over to, I think, Hazel to start. Who's on mute? Go for it. She pressed the mute just at the right. She wasn't on mute, and then she just pressed the mute as I handed over to her. Maybe Robert can fill in the meantime, tell her an ed tech joke or something.
No, it's all right. I've found it.
You found it. There we go. Okay, over to Hazel. Go for it.
Thanks, Michael, and welcome everybody. Yes, unfortunately, Kwong Nui who is the leader of the CMP portfolio, got asked to participate in a major event at her institution halfway through this week. So she's hoping that she will be able to pop in at some point, but at the moment you've got myself and Robert. Robert is new to the executive and new to the portfolio, obviously. I worked with Kwong Nui last year on the CMP, and before that I have been a mentee way back in 2012, I think it is. So not right from the beginning, but I've been involved for quite some time, and then I was a mentor a few years after that. So I've been around the CMP for a while. Robert, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Robert Vanderburg. I'm at Central Queensland University, and obviously I'm new, but I've done mentoring through the program, and I've done mentoring in other locations. So I'm looking forward to being involved.
Thank you. Okay, so today is a mix of Robert and I giving you some information and also some of the people that have been involved doing, telling you a bit about their experiences. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end where you can ask us any questions whatsoever about it. And if you've got questions during the session, please either raise your hand virtually or in reality, and one of us will note that, or you can put a note in the chat. So I'm not going to read these slides in full detail for you. We will make the slides and the recording available down the track. But the CMP is all about bringing mentors and mentees together to work on a project of choosing by the mentee, but with input from the mentor, about something that you're passionate about and want to get some support from more experienced people. So we're looking at whether it's academic or professional research or practice, and we'll come more to the professional practice side of it in a little while. And if you are accepted into the program, you will get a handbook, and that explains a lot more of the details. So it's how to expand your career portfolio and establish support networks. I mean, a lot of the people in the room today I've known for many years now through ASCILITE and the mentoring program. These are some of the benefits that we've had mentioned at the end of every year. So the mentees are reporting expanded self-confidence, better knowledge, greater research, etc. And the mentors also are increasing their networks, greater knowledge of new areas, and a greater focus on their own career needs. So both mentors and mentees benefit from it, especially when they work as a collaborative mentoring group. So you can have two mentees working with one mentor. Last year we had, I'm going to get the numbers the wrong way, we had a group of 5, and I think it was 2 mentees and 3 mentors. Thanks, Ariel. So there's all sorts of combinations, and once you put your application in, we have a look at them, and it's your choice of whether you want to be part of a group or individually, or you're happy with either. Robert, I'm going to let you talk. Oh no, I'm going to do this one and then I'll hand over to Robert. So this year we've got a new initiative, which is the Women in Professional Leadership. We found that last year we had quite a few of the mentees who weren't necessarily interested in a particular research project, but were interested in furthering their career. They may have just come to EdTech learning design from an academic role in some cases, or moved over from a profession, a pure more admin role into the learning design area, and wanting to know how they can progress. So a lot of it is around leadership skills. And we've had for the last couple of years the Women in Academic Leadership program, which is aimed at level C and above. So we've now introduced from this year a part of the program which will come under the CMP program, the Women in Professional Leadership. So it's available for women at level 7 or above. And again, this is where you don't necessarily need to have a research project in mind, but some specific leadership skills or learning more about the role of EdTech, learning design, etc., that you want to achieve by the end of the year. And so the mentors will bring in from professional roles at HEW8 or above, and industry partners or consultants who have worked in those, and that pool is growing bigger by the day. So we're looking for both mentors and mentees, and that will run very similarly to the normal CMP, but there will also be a few opportunities to be involved in workshops, webinars around the leadership skills that everybody can attend. So Robert, I'll rest my voice and let you talk for the next couple. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. One of the things you can look at is how the CMP can help you grow. We have some quotes from mentors growth and mentees growth. And so mentors can kind of talk about growing in their strengths of guiding people, being to develop their skills as leaders. And, you know, obviously each mentee will grow differently on their own. They develop professionally, develop personally. Usually mentees come in because they're at that point in their career where they want to grow as finding out who they are. And we see that happening a lot in this experience. The next slide, because these are kind of an extension of each other, we'll sort of talk about your experience, and these two go hand in hand. And these are just quotes from different mentees and mentors. Different mentees talk about how they have extended their network. They just have the ability to meet new people, grow. The first time I came in as a mentee, I was able to have a mentor, Camille, and we published paper to get a presentation together. We published a paper after that. And then she introduced me to other people, and it helped me grow in a field where I was newer. But also, like, now I'm giving back to the community as being a mentor this time, working with here. And the mentor can think about giving back to those that have menteed them and helping the community grow as they go through. The next slide is actually going to be commentary from Ashley Anderson, who has 5 minutes, talking about from a mentee to being a mentor.
Hi, everyone. So I don't have a very formal chat, but I thought it actually might be better if I talked about it informally with you. So please feel free to hop in during my 5 minutes and ask questions if you like. In 2020, I was lucky enough to be mentored by Puva. It was 2020, so our plan to do a systematic review fell a little flat, and we ended up doing a lot of it was practically like learning designer therapy. Like, is this awful in your institution? Yes. Is it awful in yours? Yes. Okay, good. And what I found was it was really valuable to have an anchor, to have somebody who wasn't just my supervisor in my team. So somebody I could meet with, and we were talking about development, my development as a learning designer, or talking about the literature, which is a big nerdy pleasure of mine, and get that outside perspective. So I found that really, really valuable. And then that sense of an anchor really continued when I sort of swapped, and on the other side was a mentor. So last year I was a mentor, and I think I saw Andrea on our list today. I think Andrea is here with us. Andrea was our mentee, and Henk and I were co-mentors. But that sense of having an anchor kind of continued even on the other side. It was every couple of weeks we had a check-in. It was people in 2 different teams. Henk is at a different university. Andrea's at the same university, but was in a different school. And it was a time that we could check in, and it wasn't bounded by the politics of what was going on at our institutions or the politics of what was going on in our teams, but talking about learning design generally, the practices that are consistent everywhere, the challenges that are consistent everywhere. And sort of Andrea, but it often felt like she barely needed us. She's sort of like, I've come along and I've solved this problem this way. And we'd be like, yeah, that's a good solution. So she was working on podcasts that she just did brilliantly by herself, and we kind of were just sounding boards. But that sense, of having an anchor outside your team, a check-in that's just about professional development. And of course, as a mentor, I've gotten a lot of pleasure out of helping someone else, out of being a sounding board, of being the person who can say, yes, this is a challenge for every learning designer ever, and this is how I got through it. Just because, you know, when you start in a field that is as liminal as, you know, educational technology or academic development, learning design, in a field that is this fuzzy, there are a lot of unique challenges, and there are a lot of challenges that we're doing the research now to write about them, but they're not well documented. So it's good to be able to sanity check with somebody else. I found that really valuable when I was learning to be a learning designer, and it's really satisfying to be able to do that with somebody else. Did anybody have any questions of any kind or any comments that you'd like to raise? You've got somebody who's done it, who's been in the program for at least 3 years. Oh yes, that is true. I am now senior. Yes, that did happen.
I just typed, I mean, not to brag, but actually been in the program for 3 years and went from being a learning designer to a senior learning designer as well. So, I mean, you know,
results.
Yeah,
results.
right results in the mentoring program.
Absolutely. Oh, I've got a minute left. Okay, but yeah, I don't have anything else that I really needed to get through. It was just, if there's anyone who has any questions or who wanted to talk about it, I'm here. You can also shoot me an email, anderson.a@unimeld.edu.au, and I'd be happy to chat.
Okay, and the next slide, James Burt is going to be next, and he also has 5 minutes. Just so you know, this is what I was told. So give everybody 5 minutes. The timer always gets, you know, the bad bearing. But yeah, James Burt is next.
Before we start with James, I want to know, how long has James been part of the CMP? Because what did Oriel say? 6 years. Do you think you beat 6 years, Dr. James? Are you the elder of this, in the absence of Michael Sankey this time? Are you the elder of the CMP?
I'll be honest with you, I cannot even remember. I think what am I talking about where things go wrong?
No, well, but I think the fact that you don't remember suggests that you probably are the longest.
Michael, you're taking a minute of his 5.
That's right.
No,
it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Yeah, there we go. Journey is not always as planned. A little bit like my presentation this morning. My journey is not always as planned. When you're dealing with PhD students, maybe that's a good segue onto all of these things. So, so thank you so much for the invite today. I've probably had that interesting journey. I've not actually been a mentee. I went in as a mentor straight away into the program, and it was Sue Gregory that tapped me on the shoulder at, I think it was maybe an ASCILITE, maybe 7 years ago, something like that, and sort of said, James, it would be nice if you, or James, you're going to be a mentor next year. I think that's what, I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. I don't think I had a choice. And I said, absolutely, I would 100% love to be a mentor next year in the program. And so maybe that's why everything's not always as planned, because things just emerge. And for myself, I would say the journey through ASCILITE and indeed into mentorship has been both an incredible pleasure, having worked with, I think, maybe over 12 different mentees over the time, but also some frustration over that time as well. And maybe that's frustration from my side, but also from my mentee's side. And I'll give a couple of stories about why that might be the case and why the journey is not always as planned. So some positive stories in mentorship, being able to mentor both individual mentees, but also as part of a group. I think Michael and I mentored a group, probably 4 years ago, was it, Michael? 4 or 5 years ago, I think now. See, COVID changes everything. There's one of those not always planned things that comes to mind. But really seeing some great success with mentees that perhaps have transitioned from, and I remember Charlotte, for instance, had transitioned from a pure science position at, I believe she was at University College London, and was in a science academic position, and then moved to a teaching only position at Melbourne University, and was really lost, didn't really know what that meant in terms of a research scholarship of research position, and being able to sort of sit and have time to sort of work through that you can still publish, that you can still generate really good scholarship that will support your promotion, was really beneficial. And Charlotte and Ger Post, who I didn't know at the time, ended up getting the full paper best paper award in ASCILITE of that year. And then Charlotte went on to actually get her academic promotion the following year from lecturer to senior lecturer, and sent a very personalized message, and I'm sure Michael received it as well, in just thanking so much about that support and mentorship. We didn't write a paper together. We revised and supported her paper that she wrote with Ger at the time. And I think that's something that is to be noted out of this, that a mentor doesn't need to be a co-author. A mentor can simply just be a sounding board, which was mentioned before, about just having that person that can give advice, whether it's review, whether it's you know, job advice, or whether it's simply just advice in general. And then what was interesting is from that, it led to another mentee of mine, which was Ger Post, who Charlotte sort of introduced me to at ASCILITE. And we sat down, and he was saying, oh, look, I'm really interested in perhaps taking on a mentee position. I'm sort of in sports and I like sort of tech, but I don't really know what to do. And we sort of had a bit of a chat over one of the lunches at ASCILITE, and we sort of came on this mutual sort of desire of exploring critical thinking. And at the time, he was really interested in playing FIFA on the PlayStation, and I was looking at esports in academia, and we sort of conceptualized this idea. And that was a formal mentorship where he specifically requested for myself as a mentor through the program. And that ended up leading to a series of research papers that have been published over a number of years, and essentially a large-scale project with looking at Q1 journal publication outcome across 3 institutions, both nationally and internationally, including a research assistant and former PhD student of mine. So these things can grow. There's a growth potential. On the flip side, life gets in the way, and I think I know Robert's giving me the wind up.
Because we're growing past.
We are growing
in the growth,
and
Michael,
I guess
took time from you, and I knew
he did. So I'll leave it on this note that sometimes life gets in the way, whether that is the mentee having things happen, and whether it's a job loss or whether it's something else, and sort of pulling out of programs, or indeed the mentor having a very big change in their career, i.e. myself, about midway through the process and becoming an associate dean, and really changing your entire year's planning of things. So things happen, and I guess it's trying to look at these things as an organic, flexible arrangement. And it doesn't mean that it ends with changes. It just means that it can change, and those things have to ebb and flow. So I know that that's my time. I'm more than happy to give some other advice in relation to change management of mentor and mentee, and I will pass it back to Robert. Thank you kindly.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel horrible. I get the timing job there. That's the rough job. But Dr. Kelly will be next in sharing.
Nice of you to give me a doctorate. Don't have one. Yes, I'm currently I'm the curriculum development manager at the law school, never having taught law in my entire life. And I'm kind of in that staff development and curriculum development and assessment development, chat GPTs on the horizon, God help us, having come through a staff development and a tertiary teaching role. So I didn't come into the program as a mentee, I just kind of launched straight in as a mentor. And I was working it out. I've done about 6 years now. And the topic I was given was at a distance. And all of my experiences have been at a distance. Even way back 6 years ago, it was one mentor having two mentees. And then it was two mentees with one mentor. Two mentors with one mentee. I did one-on-one. And the last one Hazel was talking about was the group of three with the two mentees. All of them at a distance, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference that you aren't in the same institution, that you aren't even in the same country, because they've all been kind of international with Australasia. So I think perhaps the advantage is that COVID's kind of normalized that anyway, but it does give you some advantages as well, because you find a technology that works, you find a time that works, but in between, you're not going to bump into each other accidentally. So you've got some time to reflect and consider your response. And we've used Zoom, Slack, Teams, email. The key thing is the communication between the groups and between the people. And once you start talking, you discover that you're all in the kind of the same place. As Ashley was saying, you discover that there are the same things that you're venting about. I see Pooh has been able to join us. We had this one meeting where all we did was moan about what the hell was going on our institutions, because it was all changing. So it's excellent for both sides, because you do find you're not out there alone. And we were talking about instructional design, we were talking about staff development. It didn't matter, we were coming from different positions. You just set the goals and kind of try to work towards them. But then life happens and things change, as has been explained. And Michael said that I might be talking about quite a few changes. Yes, I was made redundant. One of my other mentor people was made redundant. At least 3 of my mentees have either been made redundant or walked out the door or changed jobs as a result of the mentee-mentor situation, where they got totally fed up with where they were and went somewhere else. So there's a lot of change that you just have to deal with, but I guess we're kind of used to that by now. In terms of outputs, it doesn't have to be a research output. For us, it was maybe a presentation. This year we did a pick a picture at ASCILITE. We've done papers and posters for ASCILITE. We haven't done the huge research paper because I probably ended up with more professional staff than academic staff. The ones that were supposed to be putting their CMP together didn't happen, but we had a lovely time. So the whole idea is that you get some way of having regular communication. The mentor role is to ask those naive questions. You know, why are you doing it like that? It seems daft to me, explain, and prompting and guiding and nudging and collaborating. But also it's important to do that venting and sharing. But you're also gaining critical friends from both sides. You say what you're talking about, they critique what you've got, you come to some kind of informed audience that can actually ask really good naive questions. And definitely your networks expand. I'm still following people on Twitter. I know it's getting a bit old hat now, they pop up in communities of practice all over the place. You see them on webinars, ASCILITE webinars from, you haven't had much to do with them, but you suddenly see their name pop up and you recognize that. It's an amazing community feeling that you get out of this. And the best bit is if you actually get to attend an ASCILITE conference, you actually meet the person and you realize they do exist from the neck down, which is really cool as well. So plus there's the advantage you get discounted attendance at ASCILITE. Nobody's mentioned that yet, but that's one of the perks of this as well. So I'd really encourage you to take part either as a mentee or a mentor if you think you've got something to share or you want to get something different out of it for yourself. And I didn't put down, Hazel, that I'd be interested in that leadership one. I went the other way, but since I'm in professional leadership. Maybe I'm easy either way. That would be interesting to be able to talk about. Okay, I've had my 5 minutes, Robert.
Thank you. So sorry again. Next will be Camille Dickinson-Dean.
And this is where Camille gets an opportunity to talk about Robert, because Robert was her mentee, right? So he's not allowed to wind her up at 5 minutes. Otherwise, right, Camille?
What should I start off with? All the goodies?
If I call her my mentor, she'll get wound up. That's why I didn't.
Very good. Every experience is different, and thanks to you guys for asking me to talk about this, because I'm not going to use the full 5 minutes. I believe that different people bring different things to different spaces. And when you have so many differences, guess what happens? It's so complex. It's so many permutations and combinations of what can happen, what will happen. And as Aurel just outlined, things change. Things happen, things change, things move on, and situations are different. I've had numerous mentees over the years, not only in ASCILITE, through EduCourse, through ACT, through ISLS. I've been in many different learning science and technology related mentorship programs for different reasons and for different views. And I can tell you, I've not had one experience that's exactly the same as the other. And I won't have it, because everybody goes into it with a different package, a different bag of what they want out of it and what they want to bring to it. And that's, I'm looking at the saying, it's always a learning experience every time I'm on set. Yeah, I learn a lot from my mentees, and that's the kind of relationship. I don't see a hierarchy. I see us coming together and we develop some kind of relationship where we can call on each other in the next year and onwards. All of my mentees still talk to me. I mean, and I've been doing it for maybe 15, 20 years now. All of them still talk to me. All of them still coming in fact. I have a slide deck somewhere with pictures of babies and grandkids and everything going on. But in all of that, the growth is what I look for, the exchanging growth and the opportunity for me to grow as well with that partnership that we've developed. So that's my spiel. Thank you.
Awesome. And Andrea from Melbourne is next.
Do I also have 5 minutes?
Yes, everybody has 5 minutes.
Okay. Cool. So like everyone has probably heard from Ash just now, Ash was one of my mentors of last year's CMP. My other mentor was Hank from QUT. So I was one of the lucky people to have 2 mentors instead of just one. So really luxurious experience. So like what you have probably heard from Ash, we had fortnightly meetings. So it was online because Hank is based in Queensland. Obviously, it was online. And our meetings were mostly divided in like 2 parts. Firstly, we usually have a discussion about the main project, the CMP project, which was the podcast, which I was doing throughout last year. So the podcast was on the topic of online learning, and I interviewed different people about their views on online learning, including academics who our team has been working with, or librarians or HR consultants, and as well as other learning designers. So a range of different people who have, their own views, sometimes similar, sometimes different, on the topic of online learning. So the podcast is going to air, I think, pretty soon, because it's going to be hosted on an MSpace website. MSpace is where Ash and I both work. So once that website is updated, it's undergoing a revamp at the moment. Once the website is updated, I have promised in a CMP presentation late last year in the conference that I will post the links and a bit of information about the podcast on a ASCILITE blog. So hopefully I'll be able to do that pretty soon. So that's one part of our CMP meetings. The other part is usually just a bit of casual casual chat, and mostly me seeking advice from Hank and Ash. You know, I was in my first year as a learning designer last year. So it's, you know, you can have all sorts of problems coming up. It could be about workplace, it could be about the bread and butter about learning design, or it could be just about how do you deal with those tiny issues in your first year of work. So Hank and Ash were both able to provide me with very valuable experiences. And, you know, Ash, she has provided me with a number of books to read, which helped me quite a lot in the first year of work. And I was very grateful for that. So for anyone who might be interested in becoming a mentee, maybe again, I feel if you have a project in your mind and you would like some guidance from someone more experienced, this is really like highly recommended. My project personally is not very much research focused, but I feel the CMP might be even better if someone like has a research piece of paper or a research thesis in mind, and you might be able to get to know more about the topic you're researching on, or get to know the people who you might be quoting in your research. You know, we always see the people that we quote in our papers as the star in the industry. So you might get to see the people who you quote all the time. So I feel, yeah, there's a lot of potential in the CMP experience. So I would like really highly recommend it to anyone who has not experienced it or would like to benefit more from it. Did I use up my 5 minutes?
That's good. Next will be Keith Haggard.
And I'll just note that Kwong Yui's been able to join us, so she's just come in. So
Yeah,
hi,
I
Kwong
just
Yui.
let her in. I let her in.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Hazel. Thank you, Mike. And hello, everyone. Sorry for being late.
I looked earlier, I didn't see Keith, so I'm trying
No,
to. I don't think
no.
Keith is here. So Kwanui, you can speak for Keith. He's lost his 5 minutes.
No, Keith sent a tentative presence, but no, he couldn't make it. I think so as Puva. But Keith has done a podcast in this. So when it is being processed and it will be published on ASCILITE website, then we can hear about Keith's perspective on joining CMP. So let's watch the space for Keith.
I guess that we can go on to Puva next.
And
I'm here. I made it.
Yeah,
Hi,
thank you, Puva.
everyone. No problem. We've just had like a 1.5-hour webinar before this. So I was telling Kwang Nui I might be a absentee, but I made it, so that's good. Great to see everybody. I will not use up my 5 minutes, I think, but I want to share that for the last 4-5 years, it's been just a wonderful learning journey for me. I came in not knowing what to do, what to expect, but everyone that I've worked with, as Camille said, there was no hierarchy whatsoever. We were all on equal footing, and I learned so much from all my mentees. And last year was even more exciting. I was part of 3 mentor group and 2 mentees. It was a very big group, and we were wondering how are we going to put this together, and we did. And so that was really exciting. So every year it's been different. I would encourage everyone to at least try it once, because you get hooked. So that's the fun bit. Through this CMP program, I've managed to publish a paper, and in my first year I co-authored a paper. I've actually won a prize for a poster. All these things would not have been possible for me on my own if I did it. And I've made fantastic friends. Ash is smiling and she knows. I've made very good friends, and the networking opportunity has been really good. So that's it from me. It's a big plug. Come join us and you will be hooked and you'll stay. It'll become a lifelong learning experience.
Yeah,
Thank you.
like joining a community, isn't it, Puva?
Yes, it
It is
is.
joining a community. Yeah.
It's up to Kwang Lee because she just got here. If she wants to do the next part of the 5 tips, or I can do it. So you can kind of hear from our other lead CMP.
Robert, I'm going to, unfortunately for everybody, unfortunately for me, I'm going to have to leave in a couple of minutes. Can you share your screen from now on, and then I'm not interrupting?
I cannot share my screen, but I can do it without seeing the screen because there's just 5 tips. And then there's what to expect in questions. So
okay, yep,
we don't need
I
to
can
share
hang around that
screen
long.
really, because but
Yep.
Kwang, do you want to do the 5 tips?
Yeah, thank you. So yes, set goals so that you have a shared expectation. So the mentors and mentees come in, and then you may not know each other beforehand. So it's always important to have a shared goals, shared expectations to start with, and then that will sort of set the foundation of the relationship. And also be flexible and adaptable, especially if you are not in the same city. And yes, Aurel, set the goals, and then you can keep changing them until it suits. Because when we come in the relationship, we will be thinking, oh, we can do this together, but things may change, and it's okay to change it. So that's the part of being flexible and adaptable. And also, sometimes the mentors and mentees are not in the same cities. So being flexible, different time zones, using Zoom, using different means of communication. So just be a little bit adaptable, and also considerate of each other's workload in their own institutions. Manage hours if needed. So this is what Mike and I talk about a lot when he was the CMP coordinator in the past 2 years with me. The mentees maybe have to be more proactive to manage our works if needed. So sometimes the mentors may forget.
I think Kwang Lee has frozen up.
Mentees would like to get out of from the mentors a lot, then it would be good to manage outwards. Thank you, Mike, for sharing the screen. I can't remember the 4th one. Yes, think outside the box and for opportunities. So for both mentors and mentees, if you want to make full use of this process, then yes, think outside the box, and there are all sorts of opportunities. As coordinators, we will try to initiate some activities or events or other things outside the CMP agreement. Then we can do something together, for example. And lastly, I think similar in all sorts of relationships, communication is the key. So communicate. So if, unfortunately, sometimes that happens, communication may break down, and that's where maybe the coordinators, the 3 of us, may be quite useful in that perspective, in that situation. Didn't happen much, but it had happened in the past. So again, that is the communication that will help to ease things or to smoothen the process a little bit. Anything to add, Robert?
Yeah, just on the communication part, even if there's some difficulty between you and your mentor, or between a mentor and a mentee, communicate to us. So that we can help the situation. We want to make sure it's open and that people feel safe to communicate about anything. Because, sometimes people don't super mesh and don't feel free, just communicate with us so we can help you so you don't get further in a situation you might not be happy with. So feel free to talk to us about that.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert. Next.
Yeah, the last slide is just what to expect from us, which is kind of, we've already covered,
Yep.
Some virtual events, some connections, check-ins. And so the last part is questions from people that want to be mentees or mentors for either us or any of the mentors that spoke.
Yeah. As coordinators, we will try our best to match, but again, sometimes the matchmaking is based on the things that people or information being provided to us. So we will try our best, but if you need some sort of changes in that aspect, let us know. Actually, you have your hands up.
Yes, are we up to questions?
Yes.
Yes, amazing. I was curious, I put my hand up to be a mentor again, but I'm working on a PhD. It's education focused, but my supervisors are in the engineering faculty. So I was actually curious, like, is it possible to be a mentor and a mentee?
Yep, that happened last year. So someone
So we
was
can
in
apply
that
to both?
position. Yeah. So if you really want to have two roles at the same time, yes, we can do that, but not guaranteed, because we haven't seen the applications yet, and we don't know how many
Yeah.
mentors and how many mentees we have, and
Yeah.
whether you know, which journey will be more useful for you or more meaningful for you for the year. But put in your applications, and then we will go from there, and we will let you know and have a individual chat with you. Is that okay?
And from the sounds, definitely tell us if you're looking for the engineering mentor or the education mentor, you know, which one you're looking for.
Yes, definitely
Yes.
more the education mentor. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Andrew.
And just to be clear, Ash, the discounts don't stack. You can't get 50% off for being a mentee and 50% off for being a mentor. Rod
Oh,
is wise to people that try and do that. So yeah.
all right.
Yeah, no joy.
Yeah.
Andrew, go.
Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, look, thank you to all the speakers. I found it really interesting and informative. Just wondering, just with juggling other things I'm doing at the moment, is there a sort of timeline for when you need to put in your application? Is there a due date, or wondering how that works?
Yes, it's on the website. Someone please remind me.
2 weeks, boss. It's 15th of February, I think.
Right.
So you got 2 weeks to put in an EOI. But just put something in, Andrew, and we'll see how it goes. But how often you meet with the mentor is or mentee, whichever one you're deciding to do, is up to you. So I'm sure we can fit it into the workload. I'm confident.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and if you need more than 2 weeks to put in your EOI, email one of us, and then I will see what I can do, but preferably not too much later than that, because the matching will take some time from 3 of us to do all the matching up.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Right.
to note that generally mentees can only have 12 months of mentoring, but mentors we well and truly welcome back multiple times, and we welcome mentees to move up to mentors, but it's only in exceptional circumstances that you would be able to be a mentee for more than one go. But actually, if yours is a very different circumstance now of what you're wanting the mentorship, it could certainly be looked at.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll give it a go. Yeah, this would be, I'm working on a PhD and I have very non-education supervisors. Cool. Excellent.
Welcome to doctoral supervisors as well. So yes, any more questions, feedback, thoughts?
Tell your friends.
James has got a question.
James.
Hi everyone, sorry I missed the first half an hour of this session, so I may be asking questions that have already been addressed. I put my hand up to be a mentor, but I've never really engaged with this whole scheme before. Is it generally preferred or expected that people will be a mentee before being a mentor, or can you just launch in and say, hey, I'm happy to kind of put myself up as a mentor from the beginning?
Yeah, that's a very good question, James. So in your EOI application, there's a section to highlight what is your mentoring experience, and what makes you think you are ready to be a mentor. So it doesn't have to be a mentor in ASCILITE. So if you have mentor elsewhere, or you think you are ready to be a mentor, you just put in your rationale and justification, and we can go from there. We certainly have new mentors for ASCILITE that have been experienced mentors from elsewhere that we take them in as the ASCILITE mentors.
Okay.
You probably missed it, James, but the other James actually mentioned that he started as a mentor. He was never a mentee.
Okay.
And
That's right.
that's right. But then Robert, interestingly, I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this. He wanted to learn what the program was about. So even though Robert probably could have started with us as a mentor, he decided to come in as a mentee in his first year. And he, you may have missed him telling that story, but he met Camille and he really got value out of that, even though Camille very much told him to stop saying that he's a mentee because she sees them as peers. But I don't know if Robert's got anything to add in his experience in being that mentee that first year. Do you think that'd be valuable for James?
I mean, it all has to do with what you want out of it, right? Like you can do both, obviously, like that might be a benefit, but I'm from the field of education and was moving into ed tech. And so for me, just being a mentor wouldn't get the kind of contacts I needed out of it, right? Because I wanted somebody that knew other people, not someone new, right? So I wanted a mentor who could introduce me to other people and help me meet. And so, you know, I will always tell Camille she was my mentor. She introduced me and guided me in a field, but she always says not because I've had my PhD longer than her. So the thing is, you know, but it doesn't matter. My PhD was in a very different field. And so I always say, like, you know, everything's right if you know why you're doing it, you know? So if you want to be just a mentor, that's fine. And you got those skills. You don't need to have been our mentee previously, but if there's other things you want to gain from being a mentee, then go for that or do both.
Okay, that sounds fine. I think if I'm being very critical of myself, it might also possibly be because I always have an easier time giving advice than receiving it. So, you know, there's always that factor as well.
Thank you, James. I look forward to receiving your EOI either as a mentor or mentee, whichever that suits you. And then we will be in touch. Okie dokie. Any other question and feedback? No, anything else to add, Robert? Hi, sorry.
I was going to throw one thing in. Ash asked in the chat, you know, what was it like having those big groups? I think 5 was the one that I worked on, a group of 6 with James. James mentioned this at the beginning, and that was a really different experience. And so I'd encourage people, if you end up, there's a box on the form that says, do I want to do a collaborative CMP? It is a totally different experience than Oriel. I can see Oriel's face because she had one as well, I think, with 3. And and you do sort of work together as a team, as a peer group. And some people, you know, it gives you an opportunity where some people are working really well and some aren't working so well. And you can kind of learn quite a lot and kind of different things from working with other mentors, if you're a mentor, or learn sort of peer learning from other mentees. So yeah, I'd encourage you tick that collaborative box, and if Kwong Yui or Robert or Hazel stick you in a collab team, don't panic. It's a different experience, but I think it's a really valuable experience.
Yeah, and what you do is you just look at the strengths of each, right? It's harder to develop a really close relationship with 4 people as your mentor, or if the mentor is splitting, but with a one-on-one, you have that different ability as well. And there's just strengths to each, you know. But Rita asked a question, is there anything specific that you were looking for in an application to be a mentee? That you fill out the application. Where you got to fill out the application. That would be specifically what we're looking for, because we're here to help you wherever you are. But what I would say, and if you're not ready when you fill out the application, at least when you meet with your mentor, the more you tell us, the more we can help. That's really the basis of it. The more you share what you think. But if you go, I don't know, never done this, even that, we're going to point you to somebody who knows how to work with people that say, I don't know, right? So all we need is for you to fill out the application to be a mentee. No specific requirements.
Yeah, bang on. Thank you, Robert. That is a great answer. Yes, yes. So please send in your EOI, and we did receive application in the past and say, I actually don't know what I'm looking for, and I actually don't know what I would like to get out from the CMP, and we managed to match the applicant with someone. So yes, thank you, Mike, for putting in the link. So yes, there is the place for you to fill out the forms, and CMP and the new initiative that Hazel and Robert has been talking about earlier on. So any last words of wisdom, Robert, before we end the session? No? Anything else from Mike? No? Thank you, everyone, and coming to this welcome. And we all look forward to receiving your expression of interest. And then once we receive your applications, we will be in touch as soon as possible. And we are hoping to starting the mentoring and menteeing relationship officially in March. So watch the space. And for those who were already CMP members, we welcome you back. And for those who are new, we welcome you to join this community. Thank you and have a lovely weekend ahead.
And thanks everyone for coming to ASCILITE CMP, ASCILITE live webinar as well. So, and Keith just arrived.
Bye everyone.
Bye
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.